To understand what the implications of this tariff war, which is initiated by Donald Trump on Mexico, Canada and China, who have again, talked about countermeasures. I'm joined on the show by Professor Manoj Pant, economist. He's the former Vice Chancellor of IIFT. Also joining me is senior journalist Atul Aneja. He's the editor of India Narrative. Thank you both gentlemen for being on the show. First to you, Professor Pant. What could be the implications of this new tariffs war that seems to be looming large?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to your program. I think this is more talk than anything else at the moment. Our memory is very short. Actually, in 2016, in his first time, he did exactly the same thing. He had a deal with the Mexicans that if you don't stop immigrants, I will do this. He had a deal with the Canadians. He had a deal with the US, with China. And with China, out of the 200 billion that he said China will have to import from USA, the actual imports came to less than 50%, and he actually withdrew most or suspended most of his tariffs. I believe he's bargaining. Tariff is not his interest, and I do believe he's using it as a bargaining thing for other things. Now, it's unusual, but he's an unusual president, right? He's an unusual man, doesn't do usual things. I don't think there is very strong economic substance. Another factor you must keep in mind from the point of view of the tariff war, between 2016 and now, let me give one simple statistic.
But Professor Pant, he's already announced tariffs. He's said that 25% on Mexico and Canada, 10% on oil imports from Canada, 10% on Chinese goods. Justin Trudeau has responded back saying in the first 21 days we'll do this, after that this will kick in. So they've announced that, right?
No, I agree with you. I'm not saying he would not announce, but remember, I was coming back. If you look, he did the same thing last time. He announced it. Within 2 or 3 months, he suspends them. Once he feels he has got whatever he wants to get. Now, let me give you one more statistic, which maybe Mr. Trump doesn't know, but it's a reality. As compared to earlier years, today in 2022, the numbers I have, US accounts for only 13% of world imports of commodities. Right now, you see, tariffs are all about commodities, not services. They're not even talking about services. He accounts for only 13% of world trade. Now, how much can he sort of make a war on the world with? Let me tell you, Mexico, Canada, yes, have to worry. 80% of their trade is with the US, and they export a lot of stuff like automobiles to Mexico. But so you can talk about that. But the fact that he will cause a world trade war.
No, but with the Canadians also, Professor Pant. I mean, they live off the Canadian oil and gas.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those two countries can worry because they're bilateral laws.
Oh, you're saying China doesn't?
Not the same that was in 2006. And India, let me be honest, has to worry about nothing.
Okay. Let me bring in Atul Aneja. Atul, do you agree with Professor Pant's analysis that this is Donald Trump just bully bargaining?
Essentially, so, Amrit, I think that's a very important element in the whole game. But again, you have to differentiate that amongst the one theme which is coming through is really China. Even when you talk about Mexico, for example, in the first term of Donald Trump, because there was pressure on China, there a lot of Chinese investment went to Mexico, and from there Chinese products were getting into the US. So I think Mexico, you have to take that separately, because it is not just Mexico alone, which will be impacted in any case because of its dependence on the US market. But I think China is also another target when Trump imposes his additional tariffs on Mexico. You see, the whole game, Amrit, I think when you see the three countries, China stands out. I think that's important. That the pressure Donald Trump is trying to build is essentially on China, because it has a geopolitical problem with China, but more so to drive a very hard bargain with China. I think that is finally, which out of the three countries, that is going to be the most important and crucial trajectory we need to watch out for. I don't think he's ideologically opposed to China, like in the sense as the US was opposed to the former Soviet Union, which was an ideological war. This is more of a technological, economic war, where in the end, Donald Trump would like to draw a good bargain with the Chinese. Remember, Xi Jinping and Trump spoke to each other just before his inauguration. So there is going to be a dialogue between the two. There's probably an understanding between the two, but till you get to a time when you can drive a good bargain, I think these are going to be pressure tactics on China. And finally, I would not be surprised, and people of India seem to think that this is going to be a huge problem between the Americans and the Chinese, which is going to benefit us. I don't think that's necessarily the right case. They are likely to cut a deal with each other at some point. And right now we are at the early stage, the pressure building stage. But really, my focus would be more on China and not so much in Canada and Mexico.
No, I find it very interesting that you say that he's not ideologically opposed to China. I wonder if he's ideologically opposed or aligned to anything at all. He's just wedded to his own interests.
Making America great again. That's
He's wedded. He's a businessman, wedded to his interests. If his interests change tomorrow, he changes. That's the kind of personality. Yes, Professor Pant.
Just a second.
Okay, Professor Pant, Atul was just saying something. Atul,
one second. Taiwan is supposed to be our ally, but he's going to impose tariffs against Taiwan because he wants to protect America's IT industry. So, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent bargains.
Okay, permanent bargains. Yes.
The two things. One, what he's saying, and one, as an economist, I'm telling the reality. The reality is that this is a replay. It's almost a replay of 2016 in terms of he had an agreement with the Mexicans. If you don't do this, what is this problem? If you are in touch with your friends or whoever in USA, avocado prices are already going up.
Right.
Egg prices are already going. You see, the Chinese can hold out much longer than he can. He does belong to a political system. He belongs to a constituency. Look at Mexico. What's the one thing that's going to hit him? Iron and steel imports. Secondly, on automobiles. Now the consumer gets hit very quickly. And one thing any American knows is
how will it drive inflation in America? You're absolutely right.
So I am saying that these are all bargaining positions. These are again played to, he's a true politician. People say he's a great economist. He isn't. He's a true politician. He's not going to do anything, but he's got his constituency. He says, look, you got to do this to China. You got to do this about immigration. His ICE people running all over the place, arresting people. This is all show.
But Professor Pant, tomorrow when the markets open, the markets are jittery. Look at the statement that's come from EU. They are saying we will respond firmly if we are on the line. So he is the disruptor that he is, that he, even if for a short term, he will cause he'll bring mayhem.
Come back to the one statistic I'm giving, which everyone forgets.
Okay.
We are all talking about commodity trade, right? Please separate commodity trade from services trade.
Right.
Today, in 2022, it's even less now. US accounts for only 13% of world imports. Okay. Almost who the hell is he going to hurt? Sorry to use that word. Who's he going to hurt?
Except perhaps his own people.
That he will not do. I'm saying worldwide, he can't hurt anyone very much except for Mexico, Canada, and China. China, let me tell you also one more. What more will he do? Please go back to Biden. Actually, whatever tariffs he had imposed in his time on Chinese, the Biden continued that. Many of them are sort of, ending that, expiring in 2024. He may extend that in 25. That's it. There's nothing new that he can do. There's nothing that he can create more chaos except by his geopolitics. And then, let's be honest with you, or not, he is creating more peace than any international, leader ever has.
Okay. Let me bring in Atul Aneja here. Atul, what is the reason for his aggression? I mean, why is he if he wanted to, the reason he's saying is fentanyl, and that it's being produced in the labs of Canada, and the cartels are hand in glove with the Mexican government, and the Chinese are not doing enough to stop it, then there are other ways you can talk to them. Why wield the rod, or why weaponize trade? I mean, why is he being aggressive? He's packed off Marco Rubio to Panama. And so why is he being so aggressive?
A couple of things, Amrit. The first and the most important thing is that he has to differentiate from a domestic perspective with the Biden administration and the so-called deep state of America, which Biden represented. And I see that point. And to show that contrast, you are behaving in a certain manner in order to demonstrate that his predecessors, including Obama, were weak when it came to your region. Is actually recreating, Amrit, the Monroe Doctrine on steroids, really.
But Atul, if I may stop you for a moment here, hold your thought. I can understand that during the campaign. Now he's won the election. Politicians do that in the campaign. Once you're in the government, then you act very differently. You act in your own interests. I mean, you leave that aggression for the street. Now you're in the White House.
Yeah, but you see, at this time, it is also, if you are Trump right now, he's trying to drive the best bargain for his own country.
Okay.
And so that aggression is in the end a foreplay for a final settlement. It's not the end game.
You're saying it's a bargaining chip.
As a strong bargaining, you impose a pressure. You take the case of Mexico, Amrit. Very interesting. You are getting their people out of America. You know, their flights taking off and illegal immigrants are being sent back home.
Yeah.
There's already tremendous pressure which is being imposed on Mexico. So there would be a time when you have imposed enough pressure to drive a deal which would be far more advantageous to you than to Mexico. So, you know, I see the aggression essentially as to put a very strong bargaining position and to differentiate himself from the previous government. I think something more fundamental has happened, Amrit, that he has been voted in much larger numbers this time than in 2016. So he has a very strong and aggressive white supremacist domestic constituency element of that within his base.
Oh,
So
yeah. And I mean, look at the language. I buy that. Look at the language his spokesperson used, that these are promises made and promises kept by the president.
Yeah. So this is a different.
Yes,
I would
yes, Professor Pant, I'm coming to you in a moment, please.
This is a presidency which has evolved from 2016. It's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Okay.
Far more organized now, Amrit, than he was in his first avatar. He's learned a lot from that, and so he's a different Trump. We need to make that distinction.
All right. Yes, Professor Pant, you wanted to come in, please.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Dhareja completely. See, you must understand what is he saying. You know, one wonders if he often actually looks at the consequences of what he says, but his people around him do. Let me tell you, they know the economics of what he's saying, which is why I said, if you go to history, there's no time on this show. Exactly same thing. Is there a replay? It's like the first article. Now, let me tell you why he's, one of the things he's saying. Look at his response to the accident which happened, the helicopter plane accident in Washington. He spent more time talking about what bad things the previous administration did than what they think, how to worry about this guy. He's got this thing about bringing down. Now, I think it's some kind of a complex he has that he has to show. He's very bitter about 2020. There's no doubt about that. I think he has to show I am really the great guy I was. And one way to show is, if you've not lived, I have lived in mid-US, I've lived many years. He's the kind of guy who appeals, says, I'll beat this person, I'll beat the...
So you're saying it's his temperament, his whole personality is coming out into play. But
remember, he's got great businessmen behind him.
Okay.
But they know what's going to happen.
Okay. So he's factored in the consequences, just that, he likes to act rash.
Absolutely.
That's his style. All right, both gentlemen, we leave it there. That's all the time I have for very scintillating discussion with you. We would have loved to carry on, but for paucity of time. Atul Aneja, Professor Pant, thank you very much for being on the show.